What happens when America's most esteemed morning host and one of the most contentious royals in the world have a confrontation that shocks millions of people? This interview with CBS wasn't your typical one. This was Prince Harry and Gayle King face to face, and what began as a professional exchange descended into conceit, hostility, and an unexpected confrontation. By the end, the audience was in a state of shock. The studio was quiet, and Gayle's patience had been put to the test in a way that had never been seen by the public before. With the crew moving with quiet precision and the cameras in the ideal positions, the CBS Morning studio gleamed with its distinctive orange and blue backdrop. The interview was expected to be another standard, well-known one, similar to the ones Gayle King had been doing for decades. She was skilled at striking a mix between warmth and shrewd professionalism, making even the most challenging visitors feel at ease. But it wasn't just any visitor today. Across from her today was Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, a global celebrity, royal exile, and one of the most divisive personalities of the last 10 years. Wearing a dark navy suit with no tie and a well-groomed reddish beard, Harry walked into the studio. As he straightened his jacket and sat down in the chair across from Gayle, he appeared composed, perhaps even arrogant. The small but well-chosen audience applauded courteously. Harry's face hardly changed. Leaning back as if he owned the space, he gave a tiny nod. Gayle grinned broadly, her voice as formal as ever. "Good morning, Prince Harry, and thank you so much for joining us. Having you here is an honor." Harry smiled half-heartedly. "I thought you would find the ratings useful." The crowd laughed uneasily. Gayle saw the edge right away, but her smile remained unwavering. Her charm was expected. She received sarcasm instead. "We do just fine, I assure you," Gayle said politely. "However, we appreciate you being here. You've recently talked a lot about starting over in California and the value of freedom. How have you and your family found that change?" Harry curled the corner of his mouth and crossed his arms. "How is it going?" "It has been just what I had hoped for. Space, sunshine, and people ignoring me. At least until reporters like you begin to snoop around once more." Gayle remained calm despite the pain of the line. "The public has always been interested in your story, of course. It's a fact of life." Harry rolled his eyes and murmured, "Ah, the territory, supposedly having the advantage of being born into a cage. People believe I ought to feel thankful. However, most of them wouldn't last a week in my position. Let's face it, Gayle." The room became silent. Viewers could already tell where this was going. With a steady voice, Gayle rearranged her papers. "Since you bring it up, let's discuss that backdrop. Princess Diana, your mother, was admired by many. They perceive in you her legacy. What do you think about continuing that?" Harry's jaw clenched for a moment. The smirk then appears. "Let's get started." Diana's query. "Each and every time. Look, Gayle, I don't need to be reminded of my mother all the time to be accepted for who I am. She isn't a soundbite for your TV show in the morning." There was a quiet gasp from the crowd. Gayle took a breath and spoke slowly. "To degrade her to that was definitely not my intention. All I wanted to know was how you consider her impact on your life." Harry gave a dramatic shrug. "Impact? I complied with my mother's advice to go. The narrative is over. Naturally though, you want me to go all sentimental so that your audience will sob over their morning Joe." There was no denying the haughtiness in his voice. With her patience holding for the moment, Gayle leaned forward a little. "Okay, let's move it to the present, Harry. You have discussed your relationship with Meghan in public. How is your relationship doing right now?" Harry's expression only slightly changed. His eyes narrowed and his lips tightened, but the response was prompt. "Everything is good, perfect, and I won't give you any juicy gossip before you try. Don't waste your time looking for weaknesses, since Meghan and I are solid." The words were cut, almost like a reprimand. Uncomfortably, the audience mumbled. Gayle's eyes sparked steel, but her smile remained peaceful. Smoothly, she said, "I wasn't fishing. I just wanted to know what a lot of your supporters are interested in. In the spotlight, you and Meghan have endured a lot." Harry dismissed it with a wave of his hand. "Critics and supporters are the same thing. Everyone wants a piece, but Meghan is more powerful than everyone else. Even you, your coworkers, and those who are watching from a distance." And Gayle sensed that it was a barb. Nevertheless, she gave a courteous nod. "She obviously means a lot to you." With that certain haughtiness in his speech, Harry leaned forward now. "She is more than your ratings, your headlines, and the stale questions you have planned. So let's not act as though you're worried." The studio was oppressively quiet, uncertain if this was part of the script or the start of something explosive. Even the camera operators froze for a second. With a calmer but firmer tone than before, Gayle adjusted her glasses. "Well, I can assure you of this, Harry. I ask my questions respectfully, just like I would with any other visitor. However, viewers are really interested in your story, and you are in a unique situation. Harry grinned once again. My tale? I own my story. Not yours, not Meghan's, nor the palace. And it's a shame if people don't like it. The game isn't why I came here. Gayle maintained eye contact with him, her expression poised. She felt deep down that the second half of this interview was going to take a drastic turn. The first fissures were visible. Harry didn't want to talk. He came to battle. The set was bathed in the warm glow of the studio lights, which burnt steadily. However, the air now felt thicker. The interview had veered into rougher waters after beginning as a polished, if slightly strained, exchange. One of the calmest and most reliable anchors in America, Gayle King, shuffled her notes with an elegance that belied her inner calculation. She was aware that she was losing control of the flow of the interview. However, she was also aware of what her audience anticipated, questions that were deeper and more significant. Harry was sitting across from her, reclining back with his arms folded, knees crossed, and the tiniest grin on his face. His stance seemed rebellious, almost mocking, rather than just comfortable. With a quiet yet firm voice, Gayle started out cautiously. Harry, your book Spare provided a unique glimpse into your life, including your conflicts with the royal establishment and your familial relationships. Your honesty was commended by several. Others thought it was too revealing. Do you regret anything you revealed now that you look back on it? Harry gave a gloomy laugh. Have regrets? No, I have no regrets. It was necessary to say every single syllable. It's their problem, not mine, if the truth makes people uncomfortable. In all honesty, Gayle, the people who voice the harshest criticism are the ones who have never experienced a day in my life. Gayle gave a slow nod. However, a lot of people thought it exposed incredibly private details about your brother and father. Some claim that certain things ought to have stayed confidential. Harry's eyes narrowed slightly as he cocked his head. Please, private. My life has never been private in any way. People like you, journalists, have eaten, marketed and dissected my life since the day I was born. All of a sudden, I'm expected to keep their privacy safe? My brother and father did not defend mine. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Unfazed, Gayle maintained eye contact. Harry, some people took your writing about your father's alleged shortcomings and physical fights with your brother as a way to vent family concerns rather than to find solutions. Do you believe that the situation was improved by those details? Or with a scathing laugh, Harry interrupted her. A story? Do you really believe that my father or William have ever thought about healing anything? Let me explain. I owe them no quiet. People have a right to know if my brother pushes me into a dog bowl. People should be aware that my father is not betraying them if he chooses the institution above his own son. That's how you survive. Like a thunderclap, his words reverberated around the room. There was a shocked murmur from the audience. Gayle's voice remained even as she adjusted her glasses. Although survival is vital, some people believe that compassion and survival may coexist. Do you think there is still opportunity for reconciliation? Harry abruptly leaned forward and spoke sharply. Why must I always make amends? Why am I the one being urged to show sympathy? Where is the empathy for our kids, Meghan and me? Do you wish to make amends? Find out why my brother sold me out. Find out from my father why he allowed the media to ruin my wife. Don't sit here and act like I'm the one who's bitter. The room became quiet after pausing. Gayle made another, gentler attempt. Now let's discuss Meghan. Both of you have experienced extreme pressure and scrutiny. After everything, how is your relationship now? Harry's face changed, becoming angular and nearly abrasive. I have a stronger bond with Meghan than you can possibly fathom. Furthermore, before you even try, you won't receive a headline about problems or flaws here. We're all right, better than okay. Gayle, you may go on if that was your angle. This was his second accusation that she was a gossip. Gayle's jaw tightened as she took a slow, steady breath. Harry, I wasn't saying anything bad, but people frequently ponder how couples manage to endure such pressure. Harry lost his temper. The public, always. I want to be very clear, Gayle. I'm not here to give your viewers soap opera material, and neither is Megan. We won't fight for your amusement in the grocery store aisles. You can't milk us as a plot point. There was a quiet gasp from the crowd. Gayle's tone intensified, but she remained calm. I get it, but as prominent people, you are bound to be asked about your marriage, career, and family. Harry continued to smirk as he leaned back. Yes, the region, I see. An easy way to justify constant encroachment. Are you aware of how haughty that sounds? To believe I have to provide you or anybody else. Marriage updates. Gayle, you don't deserve it. Not one of you is. The room's temperature appeared to increase. Still sitting up straight, Gayle made the decision to change direction. Let's return to the monarchy itself. All right? Despite your repeated statements that you wish to take a step back in order to discover freedom, you continue to use the title. You continue to benefit from the relationship. When someone criticizes you for leaving but never actually leaving, how do you respond? Harry was touched like a flame to tinder by that query. An expression of annoyance took the place of his smirk. There will always be detractors. I am accused of cashing in all the time. But really, what else do people expect? I didn't pick the system I was born into. I walked away. I created a life outside from it. I can write a book or get a Netflix deal if people are jealous. But that's their problem, not mine. Regarding the title, should I throw it in the trash or what? Whether they like it or not. He dismissed the very notion of accountability in his haughty remarks. Gently, Gayle set down her papers. There was steel beneath the calmness of her voice. With all due respect, Harry, many would argue that you have framed yourself as both a victim and a benefactor of the royal system. You talk about getting out of the system, yet you've also taken use of it. Harry gave a loud snicker. The talk is about to begin. Gayle, let me save you the hassle. I don't give a damn. Not about your judgment. Not about headlines, not about critics. Don't act as though you know what it's like to be a member of their family. Now the audience whispered more loudly. It was obvious that Gayle's patience was being tried. Her stance remained calm, but her lips contracted. She was aware that the time had come when she would have to stop putting up with the haughtiness. Harry too? He appeared almost delighted, as if he were inviting her to confront him. The storm was intensifying. No one heard the 5 deliberate seconds that the clock on the studio wall ticked. The cameras hummed. Unnoticeably, a boom mic moved in closer. There was a stillness among the audience, more like a held breath than actual silence. Gayle left her notes alone. She just folded her hands. The gesture of a teacher choosing to reclaim the room, or allow a student to argue himself into a corner. With a steady voice, velvet over steel, she replied, "Let me try this another way. You said that you departed to keep your family peaceful. Your tone doesn't sound calm today. It sounds aggressive. What was different?" Harry gave another crooked, well-practiced sneer. "What has changed is my frustration with those like you who pose as neutral, while posing as weapons. You're looking for a confession, not a discussion." Gayle's eyes remained fixed. "I'm looking for clarity." "You want clips?" he retorted. "Do you want your headline handed to you?" Someone in the back row let out a single, hesitant, swallowed laugh. Gayle didn't pay attention to it. "All right," she responded, bending slightly. Then "Despite your claims that you have no interest in working for the company, you own trademarks based on titles. You write a best-selling memoir on your trauma and record your regal past for streaming services. When does the departure start?" With a look of annoyance on his face, Harry cocked his head. "I remove it for the comfort of those who never had to endure my childhood when they stop requesting it. Monetizing it," Gayle continued, "or surviving it." Calm as a metronome. A faint tremor ran across the crowd. Harry's gaze became piercing. "You have no right to assign a value to my suffering," he said. "You didn't experience it." Gayle said quietly, "And the people you wrote about didn't consent to you setting their price either. But here we are." He laughed without humor. "Willingness. Coming from a newspaper that governed my life by committee. That's impressive. Don't hurt me." After taking a breath, Gayle placed her hands on the table. Still, open, grounding. Let's discuss the details. Your sibling, your dad, do you wish to make amends? Harry gave a dramatic shrug. Sure, if they want to act more like family than board members, but I'm not pleading with them to meet so I can hold them accountable for their decisions. The days of that era are ended. Do you understand how someone who hasn't burned their family on a book tour may see that response as haughty? Gayle inquired. His pupils were pricked with challenge as he leaned forward. Do you see how a woman who has never had to choose between the truth and a gilded lie would take your inquiry as sanctimonious? Gayle did not flinch. Without a ghostwriter, many people make the truth their daily choice. Harry, quiet, tidy, and unadorned. The words landed. The crowd responded as if they were being scared into the air. A group breath, then silence. Harry relaxed, his jaw clenched. That's what it is, then. The dignified disappointment thing is what you're going to do. Harry, we were expecting more. According to Gayle, I had anticipated greater respect for the fans who purchase your book or watch your broadcasts and still wish to learn more about the person who created them, rather than disdain for the inquiries. He yelled, my life isn't a product. Nothing about now suggests otherwise, she said politely. He sneered. Don't you truly enjoy the way your own morality sounds? Gayle got up the table. Once more she folded them. Deliberate and resolute. I've been doing this for a while, Harry. I've done interviews with whistleblowers, presidents, survivors, and yes, a lot of famous people. I can tolerate discomfort. I am not patient with contempt. You accepted responsibility for your remarks when you arrived here. That is what I'm holding you to. To whom is it accountable? Your system? This time his laugh scratched. My headmistress isn't you. No, Gayle replied, and her tone clearly changed. Firmness hardening into a boundary as measured. However, this is my studio, not your press pen, confessional booth, or palace. Respectfully, you are not a prince in this place. We can talk like grown-ups because you're a visitor, or we can end it right now. With a thud that traveled, the phrase fell. A slight squeak emerged from somewhere when a camera operator adjusted grip. Harry's gaze shifted to the crowd and back again, with a wounded spark visible beneath the intense gaze. Is that the danger, then? He whispered in a hushed voice. Follow the host or lose the platform. It isn't dangerous, Gayle stated. It serves as a reminder. Rather than responding to inquiries, you have been swinging at them. You have denigrated motivations for which you lack the authority to pass judgment. Additionally, you often bring up the drawbridge of grievance whenever I inquire about responsibility. Please reduce it for me. Harry's jaw was clenched. Carrying a mother's funeral behind your eyelids while cameras record your weeping is something you can't imagine. Gayle, my friend, replied politely. I am familiar with the symptoms of grief. I am also familiar with the sound of weaponized grief. They're not interchangeable. When a set piece changes and the audience only notices the breeze of the movement, the room appeared to tilt, much like a stage does. Harry's bluster waned, but it wasn't gone, and he appeared younger for a little while. A boy engaged in combat that he did not initiate. He squared his shoulders the second time. All right. What are you looking for? William, a neat little soundbite? Concerning my dad? In order for America to clip it for TikTok and label it growth? Do you want me to apologize? Honesty without disdain, Gayle stated. That's where to start. There was a long pause. It could have been a response. Harry's mouth curled instead. Sincerity? Okay, to a responsibility he worships, my brother is a polished mask nailed to it. When those closest to him are in pain, my father is a guy who has learned to embrace the crown even more. And since you value honesty so highly, your industry thrives on that blood. There, clarity, the air shifted along with it, but Gayle's expression remained unchanged. Cooler, thinner. How about you? What are you worshipping? Keeping my wife and kids secure is something I adore. And you're angry? She inquired. His smile was cold. Security is paid for by my rage. Gayle took it in. That might be the most accurate statement you have made today. He became agitated. Do you want more? I speak the truth through the book. For the first time in my life, I created the series to have control over the plot. I departed because I would be buried alive for a nation that would rather its princes remain silent if I stayed. Good, Gayle remarked. Try it now without making fun of the listeners. Harry's hand gripped his chair's arm more tightly. Sneer is a word you adore. Perhaps you think that refusal equates to rudeness. I don't, she muttered. Rudeness sounds like this. I've asked you nothing you haven't already sold, and you're here to gather gossip. It is tabloid-worthy to suggest my inquiries when they are taken from your own pages, dismissing a crowd that, to be honest, has shown you more tolerance than you have shown anyone today. That is impolite. With sporadic cheers, the audience broke its hush. Tentative. Then more stable. The sound of palms voting in a room. Harry's gaze flickered. A sudden outrage at the crowd's betrayal. He breathed through his nose while he waited. Gayle didn't try to get the upper hand. She pivoted with it. She softened the edges and suggested, let's try Meghan again. As a person who lives alongside you, not as a headline. In what ways has she improved you? Harry parted his lips, then shut them again. His eyes darted up and down. His voice was less armored and gentler. I am not the property of the institution, she reminded me. She changed home from a place to a verb. She also doesn't allow me to vanish into obligation or anger. The audience let out a single deep sigh of relief. Gayle nodded at him just a little. He returned defensively with a shrug and said, thank you. However, don't designate her as my handler. Your press's favorite trick is that. No, Gayle responded. How did love transform you? I asked. You responded, that's what this whole thing could have been. Like a reflex. His jaw pried back into place. You're always trying to teach me something. I'm still looking for the man who made the complaint. She said, you continue to give me the crown, a rhythm. Then, Harry immediately adopted a predatory stance once more. Leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Since the beginning of the show you've wanted to say it. Say the phrase now, Gayle. I'm not a prince here. Tell me. Her mouth opened into the smallest, most melancholy smile. Harry, you're not a prince here. The frame, the limit, the line. There it was. This time, there was no applause from the crowd. They were afraid. There was no need to applaud the words. They required air to stay cool. Harry let out a strong laugh. That concludes the civics lesson. What comes next? Will you question if I exaggerated the military details? Was the story of the frostbitten person excessive? Do I feel bad about bringing up drugs, counseling, the entire lot? The anchor cadence that might turn a ship returned to Gayle's voice. No, I'm going to ask if you'd rather be understood instead of correct. He blinked. It was definitely a success. The interview may have taken a more benign route for a little moment. Harry's shoulders relaxed somewhat. Gayle's voice softened somewhat. Harry grabbed it like an escape route when a producer's cough cut the moment short. Is this what you always do? With the mockery returning to bolster weakness, he asked. Bring a confession down to earth. Check to see whether it drinks. Gayle did not recoil. Do you frequently stop yourself just before saying something meaningful? There was a crackle throughout the crowd. Harry's nose wrinkled. He stood with a sudden decision that scraped the chair legs on the floor, rather than a dramatic lurch. Some in the front row were taken aback. Harry, Gayle remarked, firmly yet subtly. Sit down, please. He stood, a piercing corona cast across his shoulders by the studio lights. We're probably done. Gayle stood as well, calm and unflinching. Until the portion is closed, we are not done. Royal protocol doesn't go like that. Television is that. Take a seat. He looked at her while balancing the strength of leaving against the expense of staying. The chamber awaited. A floor manager raised a hand and then lowered it, somewhere behind camera 2. Everyone was afraid of being the first to move. Gayle's velvety voice gave way to the unadulterated authority of a well-deserved professional. Sit down, Harry. You can walk and let that say what it says, or we'll end appropriately. He sat with a reluctant heavy thud when he paused, his jaw clenched. The crowd let out a breath they were unaware they had been holding. With a sense of relief akin to a roof after rain, Gayle returned the room and said, thank you. We are going to take a brief rest. Her hand indicated the air between them. When we get back, we'll talk about service. The work you say matters most, and whether any of this helps it. Harry remained silent. His lips formed a harsh line as he gazed off into the horizon. The red light on the tally went out. The sound from the studio filtered through the off-air cotton wool silence. While one PA repositioned a cable close to Gayle's chair, Another showed up with water. There was no need for anyone to speak to Harry. Whether he staged an exit or remained a guest would be determined by the next 5 minutes. The storm had merely changed color. It had not passed. Everyone in the studio seemed to sense that the ground was about to split when the cameras returned from commercial. Gayle King calmly and professionally faced the camera. With a silky voice and steady eyes, she declared, "We're back with Prince Harry. Let's go on." With his arms folded and his mouth clenched, Harry reclined on his chair. His sneer had turned into something more ruthless, a mix of weariness and defiance. Gently but firmly, Gayle offered one final inquiry. "After everything you've said, Harry, do you still live off the shadow of the crown, or do you believe you've created a life outside it?" It was that. Harry glared as he leaped from his seat. "I don't need this from anyone, including you." "Gayle, I'm not your headline. I'm finished." The audience erupted in gasps. The producers stopped. Security pushed ahead. Gayle did not recoil. She just set down her papers and reacted to his rage with subdued power. "Then take a stroll, but keep in mind, you're not a royal in this situation. You're merely a man who was unable to cope with the inquiries." Harry's lips were thin and his cheeks flushed, but he remained silent. After removing his microphone and dropping it on the chair, he bounded off the set. Like a gavel, the sound of the studio doors closing reverberated. Gayle gave a tiny apologetic grin and turned back to the crowd. Separating the narrative people wish to tell from the reality they attempt to avoid can be the most difficult aspect of this work, ladies and gentlemen. You deserve honesty, even if I'm sorry you had to witness this ending. Here, that is what we stand for. Hesitant at first, then more resolute, the audience cheered. Blackness engulfed the broadcast. It was done. Gayle King had refused to back down, and the prince had left. What are your thoughts? Was Harry unable to face difficult questions, which is why he stormed out? Or did this interview start out unfairly? Tell us in the comments section. Your opinions would be greatly appreciated. To ensure that you never miss another tale like this one, remember to hit the notification bell, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Till the next occasion.